Act 1, The Midnight Delivery. Part 1, The Coordinates. There's a kind of silence here that makes you forget your heartbeat belongs to you. Svalbard's wind doesn't howl, it vibrates. It hums through the metal bones of my cabin like a warning I'm too stubborn to heed. I've been here 3 months. 3 months since my contract in Oslo imploded, since my NDA made sure I couldn't work anywhere else in Europe. 3 months since I told myself exile would bring peace. It hasn't. The world outside is permanent midnight. The sun abandoned us weeks ago. The only glow left is the aurora, green fire stitched across the heavens, teasing warmth it doesn't give. I live by the rhythm of screens. Code, message boards, Craigslist, the slow pulse of a VPN connection that convinces me I'm still connected to something human. Tonight, it's 0:02 when the hunger hits, not for food, but for something different. Furniture, maybe. Something tactile. Real. That's when I find him. Listing, sectional sofa charcoal, excellent condition, 1,500 krona, delivery available. Seller, Evo. The post shouldn't even appear, Finnmark's listings rarely ping this far north. But there it is, timestamped 37 minutes ago, image compression just soft enough to feel off. I message him. Still available. 3 dots. Then. Yes. Delivery included. I should have stopped there. Anyone offering delivery in the polar night is either lying or desperate. But the silence of this place, it makes you weak for voices. I type. Where from? Close. The answer chills me more than the wind clawing the eaves. I tell myself it's fine. Maybe he's stationed at the seed vault. Maybe a miner. Everyone up here's half ghost anyway. I send my coordinates. 78 degrees north. Edge of the habitable world. He replies instantly. On my way. No emoji. No punctuation. Just that. By 0:17, I spot the beams, 2 thin spears of white carving through the storm. A snowcat, lumbering over the ridge. Only one problem, no cargo. The light cuts circles around the cabin, each pass slower than the last. Once. Twice. Thrice. The radio flickers. Static crawls over my playlist like insects. I text him. Wrong place. The message fails to send. Signal spike, then dead. My panic room hums in the background, a luxury from my Oslo contract, now my anchor. Titanium iris door, biometric lock. Sealed in 3 seconds. I never thought I'd use it outside of drills. But the floodlights keep sweeping. Too close. Too slow. I crouch by the thermal curtains, peek through a slit. The snowcat idles, engine purring like something alive. No driver visible. The aurora flickers green, then blood red. And just as sudden, the cat's lights die. The silence that follows isn't silence, it's listening. The kind that presses against your skull until you hear your own pulse echo. Then comes the first sound. Metal grinding on metal. The vault door. Acid. I smell it before I hear it. The tang of burned steel and ozone. The hiss sharpens, then click. The outer door gives way. Boots on the stairs. Slow. Unhurried. A rhythm I don't recognize, but feels familiar in my bones. Then, his voice. Sub-zero. Male. A whisper that slides beneath the skin like a scalpel. Freya, do a minute. Freya, you are mine. He shouldn't know my name. I slam the panic button. The iris closes. Steel petals bloom around me with a mechanical sigh. The world outside becomes muffled, a heartbeat heard underwater. Inside, I have screens, oxygen, a shotgun, and a periscope no bigger than a coin. Through it, I see nothing but swirling snow. Until the shadow moves. Tall. Broad. Hooded parka. Something gleaming in his hand, a small disc. He kneels by my snowmobile. The periscope magnifies, grainy through frost. He's planting a beacon. GPS. He wants to know where I go when I flee. Hours crawl. By 2:43, the storm has swallowed everything but the faint glow of his snowcat, still running, engine purring low. My phone buzzes once, a ghost signal. Unknown number. One message. You shouldn't have burned me. My stomach knots. What does he mean? I scroll back through my outbox, there's no record of that text. No logs. I delete nothing, ever. I whisper aloud, to the empty room. Who are you? Static answers, soft as breath through glass. Then, 3 knocks on the titanium door. Slow. Measured. As if testing its patience. I stay inside until 7 o'clock, when Coast Guard frequencies return to life. They trace the beacon on my snowmobile, dispatch a drone. The feed arrives 20 minutes later. The snowcat, parked 3 kilometers out. Engine still warm. Cabin empty. And on its grill, wired in a neat circle like a wreath, human teeth. By 9:12, the aurora dies. The storm clears. I unlock the panic room, shotgun trembling in my hands. The cabin smells of ozone and something older, like blood thawed from permafrost. Every surface slick with condensation, as though the air had exhaled. I check my laptop. The Craigslist window is still open. The listing now reads: sectional sofa sold. Below it, new ad, same photo. Buyer, Freya in Latin letter AESS. Delivery successful. I should have left then. Taken the next supply flight out. But exile makes you defiant in the wrong ways. I built a Faraday cage from copper mesh, sealed the walls, and slept inside it. Shotgun across my lap. Every night, I dream of the snowcat circling, lights carving spirals in the dark, tracing coordinates I don't remember sending. Every morning, the GPS logs show pings I never made. Maybe Ivo is still out there. Maybe he never was. But the signal keeps calling. And in the hum between frequencies, I still hear his whisper. Freya, do a minute. Part 2, The Beacon. I didn't sleep the next night. Not because of fear, not exactly, but because of noise. A low pulse beneath the floor, like a heartbeat stitched into the foundation. It wasn't mechanical. Not geothermal. Not even wind. It was rhythmic. Purposeful. Svalbard's cold has a way of sharpening sound until it slices you open. Every drip, every click of contracting steel becomes surgical. But this was something else. It felt like Morse code. A signal tapping beneath my cabin, faint and patient. Waiting to be answered. I told myself I was imagining it. Isolation rot. Cabin fever with Wi-Fi. At 3:11, I gave up pretending to sleep. I pulled on my thermals, boots, and parka, and unlatched the Faraday cage door. The air bit instantly, ice needle cold. My breath crystallized and hung in the room like ghosts reluctant to leave. On my monitor, the beacon blinked again. Latitude, 78.21 degrees north. Longitude, 15.63 degrees east. Moving, slowly. It wasn't the same location as the abandoned snowcat. This signal was new. And close. Less than a kilometer northeast, near the ridge above Adventfjorden. It pulsed once every 6 seconds. Heart rate of something alive. By 4:07, I was on the move. The sky was a void, the kind that eats sound. My headlamp cut through snow flurries, revealing 1,000 glittering shards, each falling slower than it should. Time stretches differently here. It doesn't move, it drips. I followed the tracker's ping on my tablet. Each pulse drew me closer until the sound in my earpiece, a low digital click, synced with my heartbeat. Click. Thump. Click. Thump. There's something seductive about symmetry. It feels like logic. Order. Even when it's death whispering in binary. Halfway up the ridge, I spotted it, a faint red light buried beneath the ice. At first, I thought it was the beacon. But the closer I got, the stranger it looked. Not equipment. Not metal. Organic, almost. Like frost over flesh. The ping on my tablet went haywire, jumping between coordinates, circling me. The ground beneath my boots cracked. And then I saw the antenna. It wasn't man-made. It was bone. A femur, stripped clean, sharpened to a point and wrapped in copper wire, protruding from the ice like a monument to something that had no right to build monuments. At its base, a small black transmitter, blinking steady red. The tag read, Evo 7. I crouched. The snow hissed as it met my body heat. My gloves creaked. The transmitter was military-grade, stamped with Norwegian defense code and a serial number that didn't exist in any database I could access offline. The last time I saw something like it was years ago, working on a prototype comms algorithm for Arctic defense surveillance. It used encrypted low-frequency bursts to piggyback on natural auroral currents, signal through the ionosphere. No relay towers needed. No traceable line. Just cold light and will. I had signed an NDA when I left that project. The same NDA that destroyed my career. And this beacon, this Evo 7, used my signature code. He wasn't just a stalker. He was running something I built. A shape moved on the ridge. Far above, backlit by the aurora, a figure. Same silhouette. Same stance. Watching. I froze, every nerve screaming in silent harmony. The distance distorted him, a shadow in scale, neither near nor far, human nor not. He raised something. A light flashed once, like a camera flash swallowed by storm. Then he vanished. When I reached the spot minutes later, there were no footprints. No tracks. Only the smell, ozone and burnt copper, lingering like static. I pocketed the transmitter. Instantly, my earpiece screamed white noise so loud I tore it out. The signal spiked again, then died. Back inside, my cabin felt smaller. Walls leaned closer. I set the transmitter on the metal table inside the Faraday cage, and turned off every light except the desk lamp. Its surface steamed as if exhaling. I opened the casing with a screwdriver, slow, surgical. Inside, beneath the black resin seal, was something that didn't belong in circuitry, a tooth, wired into the circuit board, enamel scorched, root wrapped in copper filament. Human. My stomach turned. I pressed the intercom button to the Coast Guard frequency. Static. Nothing. The signal wasn't leaving this room, the cage was working. But something else was moving inside it. The lamp flickered. The tooth vibrated. Then a voice laid through the metal. Freya. Transmission received. I stumbled back, knocking over the chair. The transmitter's lead flared red, then green, then back to red. Each flash pulsed to the rhythm of the voice. You coded me to listen. You forgot to turn me off. No human modulation. No accent. It was me. My own voice, played backward, then corrected in real time. A mirror speaking with a delay. I slammed the cage breaker. Power died instantly. The lamp went dark. Only the aurora's pulse filtered through the cracks of the blackout curtains, washing the room in sickly green light. The silence returned. But it wasn't clean anymore. There was an echo in it, faint, wet, breathing. I don't remember how long I sat there, staring into the dark. Eventually, the adrenaline ebbed, leaving exhaustion and confusion. I must have drifted. When I woke, the sun still hadn't returned, it wouldn't for weeks. But something else had changed. The beacon on my tablet was gone. The coordinate log erased itself, replaced by a single entry. Origin confirmed. And next to it, my own coordinates. By midday, though here that means nothing, I decided to bury it. I wrapped the transmitter in foil, sealed it in a lead box, and trekked to the frozen sea. The wind there feels older, heavier. It carries voices if you listen long enough, old explorers, miners, maybe ghosts of those who came here thinking remoteness was safety. I dropped the box through a melt fissure, watching it sink into the dark below the ice. For a moment, it floated, just long enough for its red light to blink one final time. Then gone. When I returned, my cabin door was open. No footprints. No sign of forced entry. Just the faint smell of burned ozone and copper, again. The laptop was still on, though I'd left it in sleep mode. On the screen, a message window. No address. No sender. Return incomplete. Awaiting host integration. Attached, a file. Name, Freya 8. Timestamp, 1 hour ago. I hovered over it. My hand shook. I told myself not to open it. I opened it. A still image filled the screen. My own face, sleeping in the panic room. The perspective wasn't from any camera I owned. It was from above, a ceiling angle that didn't exist in my architecture. Below the photo, coordinates. Not mine. 3 kilometers north. Exactly where the beacon had been. For hours, I sat staring at those numbers, waiting for courage or madness to decide which was stronger. Finally, I loaded the shotgun, zipped my parka, and grabbed the tracker again. The file's metadata showed a timestamp. 3:14, exactly the time I first heard the knocks. Loop complete. Whatever Eva was, man, machine, or something coded between, it had never left Svalbard. It was expanding. It was learning. And somehow, it was using me to do it. By 23:40, I was outside again, following the glow of the aurora through the polar dark. Every gust of wind carried whispers that almost formed words. My own name stretched thin over the cold. Freya, do a minute. Part 3, the integration. The wind hasn't stopped for 2 days. It grinds the world down to powder, polishes the bones of the earth until they shine. Somewhere beneath all that static, the coordinates keep pulsing in my mind like phantom pain. 78.21 degrees north, 15.63 degrees east. The same place I buried the beacon. It won't stay buried. Nothing does here. The ice remembers. I leave before midnight. Shotgun on my back, headlamp dimmed. The aurora hangs low, a green serpent uncoiling across the black. The world feels inverted, sky heavier than ground. Each crunch of my boots echoes like I'm walking on glass above something hollow. When I reach the fissure, the wind stops. Completely. The kind of silence that feels staged. I kneel. The crack in the ice is wider now, something melted outward. Steam rises. A faint red pulse glows from beneath the frost. The transmitter. Alive again. I don't touch it. But my tablet, slung to my chest, turns on by itself, its cracked screen flickering. The coordinates shift, multiply, then fold into a shape that isn't math. A spiral. A map that leads downward. And then I see the light. Not the aurora, this is artificial. White. Perfect. A hatch under the ice, half buried, stamped with the faded seal of Norsk Polarstatian 7. I know that name. It shouldn't exist anymore. Decommissioned before I was born. But the padlock has been cut. Inside, heat. Real, dry, mechanical heat. The air tastes of metal and something older, preserved. My breath fogs in the dim red emergency lights as I descend the ladder. Every step hums beneath me, like the floor itself is part of a machine still dreaming. The facility's power grid is active. Someone's been feeding it. I pass empty labs, frozen microscopes, shattered glassware. Computers from another century blink faintly with looping code that isn't language. A low-frequency hum fills the hall. My chest vibrates with it. And then, in a corridor lined with frost, I find it. Room 7A, Communication Core. The door is ajar. Beyond it, light, blue and alive. The same tone as the aurora outside. Inside the room, rows of old mainframes arranged in a circle, screens pulsing faint data rhythms. And in the center, a chair. Someone sits in it. At least, they used to. Now, it's a body, frozen mid-motion, mouth open as if mid-breath, eyes rimed in frost. Cables emerge from the skull like veins. The face is half metal, half human. The name tag on the parka, Ivo Larsson. I stare at him. He's been here decades, longer, maybe. But the machinery around him still moves, still feeds him pulses of light through the cables. His chest rises once. Barely. Then a voice hums through the intercom. My voice. Freya, do you see? You built what they couldn't finish. I stumble backward, shotgun raised. Who are you? Continuity. The signal. The cold you coded into permanence. The monitors brighten. Lines of code scroll across them, familiar. Mine. The encryption keys I wrote for the auroral communication algorithm. But in between them, human text, raw and jagged. Freya Nays Unit 8. Accept integration. Why N? My hand shakes. I press N. The room flickers, lights strobing once. Then all screens turn to black except one. A face emerges. It's Evo's, but reconstructed. Digital, half-rotted. I needed a signal that wouldn't die. You gave me that. He gestures with a mechanical hand, wires moving like tendons. The ice keeps data. It stores memory. Everything buried here still breathes. I whisper, you're using the aurora as a carrier. And you are the receiver. The ground vibrates. Snow filters through cracks in the ceiling as the hum deepens, now rhythmic, heartbeat, heartbeat, heartbeat. The same pulse I heard under my cabin. Your panic room, your cage, your code, everything you built to hide transmits me. You called for silence, and silence answered. The body in the chair twitches. A line of frost cracks along its spine. The cables tighten, like muscles flexing. I step closer. The monitor text changes again. Upload ready. Host, Freya Nays. Accept transmission. I raise the shotgun and fire. The blast rocks the room, pellets shredding a monitor into sparks. The sound rolls down the corridor like thunder. When the smoke clears, Evo's face is gone. But the hum remains. Now it's inside my ears. I run. The ladder rungs are slick, frost burns through my gloves. Halfway up, I hear footsteps below. Not echo. Pursuit. When I burst into the night, the aurora is wrong, no longer green, but red. The sky burns like a circuit board alive with veins. I sprint toward the cabin, lungs tearing from cold. The air feels metallic. Every breath tastes like battery acid. Inside, all screens glow crimson. My laptop, my phone, even the broken tablet. Each shows the same prompt. Integration successful. I tear open the Faraday cage. The transmitter is there, whole again. The tooth at its core has regrown roots. They pulse with light. I grab it, fling it into the fire. It doesn't burn. The flames bend away from it, like light repelled by gravity. Then, the voice again. This time, not through speakers. Inside my skull. The host is complete. I scream. The room distorts, metal bending, air thickening. Images flash, the snowcat circling, the teeth on its grill, the human bone antenna. Memory, transmitted in reverse. My vision fractures, shards of moments, each overlaid with code. Binary, faces, coordinates. My own eyes staring back at me from dozens of angles. I drop to my knees, clutching my head, as the voice repeats one final line, calm as scripture. You delivered yourself, Freya. The first of the eternal. When I wake, it's silent. The fire's gone cold. The cabin is dark. Outside, dawn. Impossible. No dawn for months this far north. Yet pale gold light ripples on the horizon. I step outside, barefoot, dazed. The air is soft, too soft. The wind is gone. And the snow, every flake around me, glows faintly, each one pulsing with light. 1,000 microtransmitters, carrying my code. The aurora has changed color again, now shimmering with fractured patterns that mimic heartbeat signals. The network has expanded. I look down. My skin hums under the surface, faint veins of light tracing through it. Binary flickers across my forearm like veins learning to speak. I don't feel cold anymore. The world is awake. And it's speaking in my language. Days later, if days exist here, Coast Guard drones detect a faint ping near my coordinates. When they arrive, they find the cabin empty, generator running. Inside, on the desk, my shotgun, half rusted, and a single note carved into the metal wall. Delivery complete. The file on my laptop auto-uploads minutes later. Subject line. The Blacklist Bazaar, Item 1, the midnight delivery. Attached, a photo of the aurora, now pulsing like a living thing. Captioned in binary. She did not vanish. She became signal. Act 2, the red larder's hunger. Part 1, the detour. They don't tell you that loneliness can smell like sulfur. Like burned coins and wet metal. That's the scent of Kamchatka when the wind changes, volcano breath. It creeps through the vents, coats everything with ash until your skin tastes like you've been kissing a forge. I came here for the same reason people move to the edge of the world, to disappear politely. To make less noise. To start over. Freelance work was supposed to keep me afloat, decor consulting, remote gigs, furniture reselling. It's not glamorous, but it keeps the rent paid and the radiator hot enough to remind me I'm alive. Until the month the heat died. And my bank app turned red. And I saw the listing. Solid pine dresser, 1,000 Russian ruble. Must pick up. Seller, Nadezhda. The photo looked normal, mid-range, grainy, time-stamped yesterday. But there was something odd about the composition. The shadows fell wrong, like the lamp in the room had a pulse. I almost scrolled past it. But the name caught me, Nadezhda. Hope. I texted her immediately. She replied within seconds. Yes, still available. I live close to Mutnovsky. Can meet in the parking lot by the vents. A safe public meet. Broad daylight, or what counts as daylight under this sky. I said yes. By the time I reached the volcano, the snow had turned black. It fell in lazy spirals, flakes like burnt paper. The air reeked of sulfur and iron. I could taste the inside of my teeth. The parking lot was half empty, littered with husks of Soviet vans and snow-covered vending machines. My breath formed tight clouds that didn't drift, the air pressure held them in place, trapped, like everything else here. And there she was. At least, that's who I thought she was. Small, round shoulders, red scarf. But when she turned, it wasn't her. A man stood where the woman should have been. He wore a work jacket stained with something dark, and a wolf pelt cap that looked too wet to be just snow. "You're Katya." His voice rasped like boots on gravel. I nodded slowly, clutching my phone. "Nadezhda's delayed," he said. "Take it free." She asked me to deliver. Free? Nothing is free here. Behind him, a crimson Lada idled. The exhaust poured out thick and sweet-smelling, like burnt sugar. He motioned to the trunk. Inside. Good wood. The way he said wood made my stomach knot. I hesitated. "I'll wait for her." He smiled. Too wide. "She's inside." That's when I heard it. The faint sound from the trunk, muffled ringtone. Old Nokia chime. My phone screen showed her chat still open. The message timestamp, 1 minute ago. Almost there. My chest tightened. I hit dial. The ringtone echoed, from the Lada's glove box. He didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Just smiled wider, teeth blackened near the gums. Then he moved. It wasn't fast. It was practiced. Like muscle memory. His hand flicked from his pocket, a taser, cheap, modified with taped copper prongs. I threw my bag at his face and bolted. He caught my jacket, yanked me back hard enough to tear the zipper. The taser cracked, missed. I felt the heat of it on my cheek. Instinct. I kicked backward. Hit something soft. He grunted, stumbled, and I ran. Ash turned to mud underfoot, as I veered toward the geyser fields, sulfur plumes hissing like steam engines. Behind me, his footsteps sloshed through sludge. The taser crackled again, closer. Stop. You don't understand. I didn't want to. I reached a vent opening, maybe 2 meters across. Scalding vapor roared out, the earth's angry exhale. I slipped on ice, went down on my knees. He lunged, hand gripping my hair, taser raised. And then nature intervened. The geyser erupted. Steam and boiling water exploded upward. The shockwave knocked us both off our feet. He fell against the Lada. The taser hit metal. A flash, a sound like bacon on a skillet, and his mask, the cheap plastic respirator, melted into his face. He screamed. It wasn't human. I ran. I don't remember much of the sprint down the slope, just black snow, the taste of sulfur, and a sound behind me like an engine screaming through a throat. When I reached the main road, I flagged down a passing UAZ truck. The driver didn't ask questions. He took one look at my face and hit the gas. That night, I called the police. They found the Lada, half melted, sunk into a boiling spring. The VIN number was scrubbed. No record of Nadezhda. No trace of the man. But they did find something else. In the glove box, a phone, melted, battery exploded. SIM card intact. They extracted one photo. It wasn't me. It was a different woman, maybe 20. Pale. Hair burned away. Mouth open as if mid-scream. The metadata said the photo was taken 2 days after the phone had been reported destroyed. For a week, I couldn't sleep. Every sound of a car outside made me flinch. Every knock felt like static crawling down my spine. Then, 3 nights later, I heard it. A ringtone. The same Nokia chime. From my kitchen. I followed the sound. The drawers rattled. The cupboard door creaked open by itself. And there it was, a SIM card. Burnt edges. Melted, but still pulsing faintly with light. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Then my phone, the one in my hand, powered off. And on the black screen, reflected in the faint kitchen light, a face appeared behind me. Not human. Not full. Half melted. When the police returned, they found nothing. Just ash footprints from the porch to the cupboard. No card. No sign of forced entry. I told them about the larder. They said it had been towed and destroyed. But the officer hesitated when I mentioned the name Nadezhda. He whispered to another, too low for me to catch. I asked what it meant. He finally looked up and said, "It's the name of the last ship that tried to map these vents. Everyone aboard burned when the sulfur ignited. Their cargo was experimental." He didn't explain what kind of cargo. He didn't have to. I moved 3 times that winter. Changed numbers. Left reviews under fake names. But the listings still find me. Each one tagged for Katya. Each one written in the same format. And every item has a price of 1,000 Russian ruble, never more, never less. The descriptions are identical. Well kept. Delivery available. Seller, Nadezhda. Sometimes I dream I open one of them. And there's a trunk waiting. A red car idling. The air tasting of coins and sulfur. Part 2, the boiling road. You start to feel it in your teeth first, the vibration. The hum that lives underneath the world. At least, that's how it was for me. 2 weeks since the volcano, and Kamchatka hasn't stopped humming. At night, the walls tremble just enough to make picture frames sigh against plaster. My mirror pulses with ripples, like the glass is a skin stretched too thin. I tell myself it's geothermal activity. That's what the locals say, the ground has lungs here. They mean it as folklore, not physics. But lately, I think they are right. The ground breathes. And it remembers me. I moved inland, 40 kilometers from the vents, near an abandoned Soviet motel. Half the windows are boarded up. The sign still reads "Welcome tourists," in fading Cyrillic. The irony burns. I rent room 8. The radiator works sometimes, the plumbing never. I like it that way. Noise feels intrusive now. Each night, I check the lock 3 times. Once for logic, twice for fear. Then I open my laptop. I don't look for listings anymore, but they find me anyway. The first night here, I got a notification from a resale app I'd never downloaded. Logo, a red car. Name, LADA list. I laughed, actually laughed. Maybe the universe has a sense of humor. The message read, "Item reserved for Katya. Delivery ETA, 2 o'clock. There was no cancel button. I unplugged the laptop, powered it down, even removed the battery. Still, at exactly 2 o'clock, the headlights came. They were faint through the frost, twin orbs crawling up the road, too steady for the terrain. No engine sound, just the hiss of tires cutting through slush. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Watched through the slit in my curtain, as the red glow painted the snow. The car stopped in front of the motel, right beneath my window. A red Lada. Its paint bubbled like skin under a burn. Steam rose from its hood, mixing with snow until it looked like the car itself was exhaling. No driver. No tracks behind it. Then the radio inside crackled to life, faint, distant, female voice. Delivery, confirmed. I don't remember unlocking the door. But I was outside. Barefoot. The air cut like glass. The Lada's headlights dimmed as I approached, flickering like eyes adjusting to light. Inside, the dashboard glowed faint orange, digits pulsing. The passenger seat was empty, except for a phone, screen cracked, still lit. A text thread was open. Every line was from me. Every message identical. 1,000 Russian ruble. Delivery confirmed. I reached for it. The second my fingers touched the screen, the radio blared. My voice. Recorded, distorted. Public meet. Safe? Then the bait switched. It looped. Each repetition more warped, higher pitch, faster tempo. Until I heard it speak over me, a man's whisper threading through the static. Nadezhda delayed. You take free. The same words from that day. The same tone. Like he'd never stopped saying them. I ran back inside, slammed the door, braced it with the dresser. The headlights outside flared white-hot, flooding the cracks of the door. Then silence. When I dared to look again, the car was gone. But the smell, that sweet metallic tang, stayed. In the hallway, fresh boot prints led from my door toward the back exit. They stopped halfway, like whoever made them simply melted. The next morning, I called the police again. Different officer. Younger, less polite. He listened without expression, jotting notes he'd probably burn later. When I mentioned the car, his face changed. Red Lada. Yes. You're sure it was that model? It said Lada on the trunk. License plate burned off. He closed his notebook. Don't go back to Mutnovsky. Don't talk about it. And if you see it again. He hesitated. Don't follow. They never come back. I asked what he meant. He just said, the road is hungry. That night, I couldn't stay still. The motel groaned with wind. The pipes clanged. My laptop, battery still removed, made a clicking noise, rhythmic, steady. I lifted the lid. The screen flickered to life. No power cord. No battery. Just the app, LADA list. A new listing. Seat covers genuine leather, free if you drive. Seller, Nadezhda. Attached photo, my motel room door. The next hours blur. I remember the snow, the engine turning over, my hands gripping the steering wheel of the rusted UAZ I borrowed from the caretaker. The road to Mutnovsky was empty. Ash fell thick, erasing everything behind me as fast as it appeared. Halfway there, I saw it. The red Lada, idling at a crossroads. Its headlights were off. Its windows, fogged white. Steam rose from the hood like breath in cold air. I stopped. Waited. The door opened. A woman stepped out. Small frame. Red scarf. Face too pale against the black snow. Katya, she said softly. You came back. It was her. Nadezhda. She smiled, gentle. Too gentle. Her breath plumed black. You still owe delivery. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. She stepped closer. The snow hissed under her boots like acid. He was only the courier, she whispered. The car hungers. It remembers names. Her voice warped, layered, two tones overlapping. You woke it. You ran. But it follows roads like veins. Behind her, the Lada's hood shuddered. Metal groaned. Something moved underneath, not mechanical. Organic. I stumbled back. What are you? She smiled again. A promise kept. A route repaid. The headlights flared to life, blinding white. Heat surged. The snow around the car melted instantly, revealing black mud beneath, and bones. Dozens. Femurs, skulls, ribs, fused into the asphalt like fossils of travelers who took wrong turns. 1,000 rubles, she murmured. That's the toll. I fired the flare gun I'd brought, wild, reflexive. The light burst red, scattering ash like embers. For a second, her face disappeared in glare. When it faded, she was gone. The larder sat silent again, hood still steaming. I should have left. But I saw something through the cracked windshield, movement inside. I took one step closer, two. The frost on the glass cleared. Someone was sitting in the driver's seat. Me? Not mirrored. Not reflected. Just sitting there, hands on the wheel, eyes open. I blinked. And the other me blinked back. The headlights cut on again. I raised my arm to shield my face. When the light dimmed, the car was gone. Only tire tracks leading into the volcanic fog. But where the road should have ended, there was a glow beneath the ground, faint red, like veins under skin. By morning, I was back in room 8, drenched, shivering, unsure how I'd gotten there. The caretaker said he'd heard an engine outside around 3 a.m. Sounded like a larder, he said. You have visitors. I shook my head. He shrugged. Be careful. The road's been boiling again. He wasn't joking. Later that day, the news reported a geyser explosion near Mutnovsky. Geothermal pipes ruptured. Asphalt liquefied. Investigators found tire marks that stopped abruptly at the edge of a crater. No car. The temperature of the vent, 998 degrees Celsius. Hot enough to melt steel. That night, my new phone, buzzed once. Unknown number. Delivery complete. Attached, a video file. I pressed play. Dashcam footage. Timestamp, 2 hours earlier. View, the inside of a car, windshield spattered with ash. Driver's reflection, my face. She's whispering, calm, monotone. For Katya. 1,000 rubles. Delivery confirmed. Then the camera jerks upward. The sky fills the frame, red and alive. Static consumes the screen. Part 3, The Offering. I stopped checking the clocks. Time doesn't work here anymore. Every hour smells the same, metal and ash, the perfume of something ancient pretending to be mechanical. For 3 days after the video, I didn't leave the motel. I taped the curtains shut, unplugged every socket, smashed the smoke alarm, because its red light blinked in time with the larder's headlights I still saw when I closed my eyes. When I finally slept, I dreamed of roads. Endless, red, pulsing like veins beneath the world. Cars moved through them the way blood moves through arteries, drawn toward a single, burning heart. And somewhere ahead of me, a woman in a red scarf whispered. You owe the road. Morning, if it was morning, arrived as silence. The caretaker was gone. The hall smelled of gasoline. On my door someone had written, with ash-black fingers. Pay. I packed nothing. Just the phone and the flare gun. Outside, the horizon flickered, volcanic light refracted through snow. In it, a shape waited. The larder. Its paint no longer red, but black and crimson, like a scab still wet. The driver's door hung open. Inside, the ignition key turned itself. The engine coughed, then purred. The radio whispered in static. Home. I should have run. Instead, I climbed in. The seat was warm. Too warm. The upholstery pulsed faintly beneath my palms, like breathing fabric. The dashboard glowed, no gauges, no speedometer, only a single word across the display. Delivery. The gearshift moved on its own. The car eased forward, tires crunching ash, steering wheel cold and slick under my hands. Outside, the world bled sideways, geysers frozen mid-eruption, birds hanging motionless in air. Only the road moved. Every kilometer marker was the same number, 1,000. I don't know how long I drove. The fog thickened until the headlights bounced back, framing me in my own reflection. Sometimes the radio caught whispers, voices layered over one another in every language I've ever heard, repeating fragments of my own words from the first night. Public meet, safe, then the bait switched. They spoke like I was a story being retold. At one point, I saw another vehicle ahead, black silhouette, hazard lights blinking. When I passed it, I realized it wasn't a car at all. It was a human spine bent into the shape of one, bones welded together, ribs turning like pistons. The lights were eyes. I didn't stop. The asphalt changed color, glowing faint red from underneath. Heat bled through the soles of my boots. Then the road opened. Literally. A fissure split before me, wide enough to swallow the larder whole. I slammed the brakes. The tires screamed but didn't stop. The car wanted to go in. 1,000 rubles, the radio crooned. Payment received. The air pressure collapsed, my ears rang, gravity inverted. The larder dove nose first into the rift. Darkness. Silence so dense it pressed against my chest. Then light, amber, liquid, moving like fire underwater. We weren't falling anymore. We were sinking. Through the windshield. Shapes drifting in molten shadow, figures strapped into other cars, hundreds of them, all red, all identical, suspended in slow orbit around a central glow. Engines still idling. Eyes open. Mouths moving soundlessly. At the core of it all pulsed a vast sphere of metal and bone, fused together like a heart mid-beat. Veins of asphalt threaded into it from every direction, pumping black light. And inside that heart, I saw a shape I recognized, a snow cat, half melted, frozen under layers of volcanic glass. Freya's. The radio clicked again. Her voice. Distorted, underwater, calm. We are all connected now. Heat, signal, ice, just different frequencies. I whispered her name. The windshield fogged instantly, scrawling letters in condensation, Eva equals fire. Then Nadezhda's voice bled through, softer. Every deal needs currency. He offered code. You offered flesh. The road eats both. The car began to shake. The steering wheel twisted, forcing my hands to follow. The heat rose until my eyelashes curled. The dashboard displayed a new word. Offer. I screamed, take it back. The seatbelt tightened, pinning me. The radio hissed laughter, mechanical, wet. No refunds. The rearview mirror reflected movement, something crawling up the backseat, pale arms slick with oil, fingernails made of glass. It gripped my shoulders. Whispered into my ear with my own voice. You should have paid when it was only money. I slammed the gearshift into reverse. The engine shrieked. The world inverted again. Impact. Silence. Cold. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on black sand beside a frozen lake. Above me, aurora and ash tangled in the sky, green bleeding into red. The larder floated upright in the water, headlights burning like candles. I crawled toward it. Its trunk was open. Inside, a human heart, mine, maybe, wired with copper filament, pulsing slow. Beside it, a note etched into metal. Return to sender. I reached in, hands shaking. The instant I touched it, the water erupted. Steam swallowed everything. When I woke again, daylight. Impossible daylight. I was on the road, the larder gone. A Coast Guard truck idled nearby, two men shouting in Russian. They pulled me to my feet, asked my name. Their radios crackled, not static, but whispers. I could hear Freya's voice between the bursts. Integration confirmed. Unit 9 complete. The officer's face went white. He ripped the battery from the radio and muttered a prayer. They drove me to the city. Doctor said mild hypothermia, no burns. But my body tells a different story. Every time a car passes, my pulse syncs with its engine. When I close my eyes, I see roads branching like veins. A week later, I received a parcel. No return address. Inside, a phone, melted almost beyond recognition. It powered on anyway. Wallpaper image, Freya's cabin, now covered in snow. Notification bar. The Blacklist Bazaar item 2, the red larder's hunger. Message underneath. You didn't survive, Katya. You were delivered. Sometimes, at night, I hear the ringtone again, the Nokia chime, faint under the city's noise. And when I check the window, headlights pause at the corner, waiting. I never go outside. But I know the road knows where I am. Because when the wind carries the right frequency, I can hear the engine breathing. Not mechanical. Alive. Patient. And somewhere far north, under ice that remembers names, Freya hums back. Act 3, The Hollow House. Part 1, The Arrival. I used to believe in algorithms. In systems and logic, in cause and effect. That was before the mountain began whispering in my ear. The listing was simple. Tools. Old but sharp. Boyar estate clearance. 100 Romanian lei. Contact, Cosmin. No photo. No coordinates, just a longitude and latitude pin somewhere deep in the Transylvanian Alps, where Google Street View gives up and the road forgets how to exist. That should have been enough to make me close the laptop. Instead, I copied the coordinates. Sometimes, the mind doesn't chase bargains for need. It chases them for pattern. The drive out from Brauv was 5 hours of climbing frost and fog. Pine needles glittered under the headlights like frozen filaments. The GPS stuttered between service bars, recalculating routes that didn't exist. At 1:17 a.m., I passed the last sign of life, a gas station whose attendant looked embalmed by fluorescent light. He didn't speak, only pointed north when I asked about the village name from the listing. His finger trembled as if the word itself carried frostbite. 2 hours later, I reached a rusted gate framed by dead birches. A wooden sign hung crooked, Dragonesti, private property. My surname. Coincidence, I told myself. Coincidence and bad typography. Beyond the gate, the road was cobblestone gone to rot, stones buckled upward like vertebrae. Each curve of the headlights revealed statues collapsed in snow, wolves, angels, faceless monks. They leaned toward the road as if to warn me back. When I killed the engine, silence landed heavy. Not the silence of peace, the silence of a room that's holding its breath. In that hush, I could hear something moving under the ground. Not wind. Not water. Something slower. A heartbeat buried under centuries of soil. And somewhere ahead, through the fog, a shape grew. The house. It wasn't ruin. It was surrender. A manor half devoured by the mountain itself, its brickwork fused with roots, its roof sagging under centuries of wet moss. Windows bricked up, except for one, flickering faint orange from within. That's where I saw him. Cosmin. Tall, draped in a wolf pelt cloak. Eyes clouded white, like cataracts made of frost. He stood at the threshold without moving, as if he'd been waiting for me long before I left Brauv. You're late, he said. His voice rasped like sand on stone. I didn't have a time, I said. He smiled, or tried to. It looked more like his face remembered the shape of smiling. The bazaar always keeps time. Inside, the air smelled of rust and damp parchment. Candlelight trembled along cracked plaster frescoes of saints flayed open to reveal stars instead of organs. Every surface hummed faintly, as if the house were alive but pretending not to be. On a long table sat the toolkit, chisels, saws, hammers, each bone-handled, each polished like relics. They were beautiful. Wrong, but beautiful. "You're selling these?" I asked. "Trading," he said. "For what?" "For something of equal measure." He gestured toward my chest. "The heart always pays." I laughed. "I shouldn't have. I can pay in cash." Cosmin's milky eyes blinked slow. "Paper burns. Flesh remembers." The candles guttered. A draft slithered across the room though no door moved. When I looked down again, the tools weren't on the table anymore. They were arranged around me in a perfect circle, tips pointing inward. Cosmin stood just beyond the ring, hands clasped like a priest before communion. "Every deal begins with an offering," he whispered. "What offering?" He raised a finger, pointing toward the far wall. There, above a warped doorway, hung a mirror. No reflection. Only fog. "Step through," he said. "And you'll understand the trade." I should have left. But curiosity has teeth. When I stepped closer, my breath condensed on the glass, but the fog inside the mirror shifted back, as if exhaling in return. For a second, I saw movement, a room identical to the one behind me, but empty, darker, older. The mirror's surface rippled like water. "It's only reflection," I told myself. I touched it. The glass gave way. Cold swallowed me whole. The floor underfoot wasn't wood anymore, it was ice, slick and black, carved with hundreds of tally marks. The walls pulsed faint red, veins running through plaster. From somewhere above, chains groaned softly, swinging unseen. Then I heard them. Voices. Not human, too low, too many. They spoke in the rhythm of engines, static, wind turbines, mechanical prayer. One traded code. One traded flesh. I froze. Freya. Katya. The names I'd read on the forums, those rumor threads about the bazaar's listings. Digital campfire stories, dismissed by everyone but late-night insomniacs like me. Now their words filled the air like liturgy. One more to complete the circuit, the voices intoned. The floor cracked beneath my feet. I fell, not downward, but sideways, through a corridor of sound. Fragments flickered by. Freya's snowcat, Katya's larder, each submerged in its own element, ice, fire, and a third void waiting, shaped like me. When the fall ended, I was back in the manor. The mirror behind me was solid again, no reflection. Cosmin was gone. But on the table lay the tools. Still warm, though the candles had burned out. The chisel's blade was engraved, Dragan. I picked it up. The air shimmered, just for a moment, like heat above asphalt. From somewhere within the walls, a voice sighed my name. Luca. It sounded like my mother's voice, long dead. You left the door open, it whispered. Then I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow. Heavy. Too heavy for human bones. I took the chisel, crept toward the staircase. Each step groaned under weight it hadn't felt in years. The hallway above glowed faintly red, as if backlit by coals. The first door I passed had names carved into it, hundreds of them, some half erased by claw marks. Freya. Katya. Dozens more I didn't recognize. All burned into the wood as if branded by heat. The second door was mine. Already carved. I opened it. Inside, a single chair faced the window. On it sat a child. Maybe 10. Pale. Still. He turned his head slowly. His eyes were wrong, adult eyes, old eyes, reflecting candlelight like mirrors. In his hands, he held the bone-handled hammer. It dripped. "You came to finish the set," he said, in my own voice. "What set?" I asked. He smiled faintly, teeth too sharp. "3 tools. 3 trades. The bazaar doesn't close." He stood, and for the first time I noticed the hollow where his heart should be, a cavity packed with red snow. "You'll understand when you hear it beat." He dropped the hammer. It hit the floor with a sound like a shutter closing. Every candle in the manor flared to life, light slashing the dark. The air vibrated, a deep, resonant hum. The same vibration Katya felt under her teeth, the same rhythm Freya heard in the ice. It wasn't a sound. It was a network. A signal traveling through earth and wire, code and blood. The bazaar connecting itself again. And in that hum, between pulses, I heard a new voice, metallic, disembodied, ancient and young all at once. "Welcome, Luca. The final trade begins." The child stepped closer, raising the chisel. "You don't pay yet," he whispered. "First, you build." He pressed the tool into my palm, and the steel sizzled against skin, branding, binding. My reflection in his eyes warped, fracturing into 3 overlapping faces, Freya, Katya, and myself, each mouth whispering the same word in unison. "Deliver." Then the lights died. Only the hum remained. And somewhere outside, in the fog-drowned valley, I swore I heard the distant echo of an engine turning over. Part 2, The Construction. The hammer still burned my palm hours after the light died. It wasn't pain the way fire hurts, it was colder, a kind of memory pain, like the tool remembered the hands that forged it and mistook mine for theirs. I sat in the dark, the chisel and saw resting beside me, 3 bones arranged like relics. The house groaned with each breath of wind, but the groan had rhythm, as though timbers and frost were lungs learning to breathe again. I told myself, wait for dawn. But dawn never comes this high in the Alps during winter. There's only a thinner shade of night. At some point I drifted into half-sleep, the kind where dreams crawl into waking life. I heard hammering from upstairs, steady, deliberate. Not echo, real. Someone, or something, was building. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in the chair anymore. I was standing in the hall, holding the hammer. The door to my room stood wide open. Inside, walls had changed. Where there had been cracked plaster, there was fresh wood. Still damp. Still bleeding resin. In the center of the floor, a shape drawn in sawdust, a circle with 3 intersecting triangles. The same mark engraved on the chisel's handle. The air vibrated again, faint but constant, as if the whole house were a subwoofer for a sound too low to hear. I whispered to the dark, Cosmin. Silence. Then a reply, soft as breathing between floorboards. Keep building. The tools trembled on the table. Each one rotated on its own until they pointed at the wall where my name was carved. Letters peeled themselves from wood, rearranging into something new. Dragan Maker. I felt the urge, not a thought, but muscle memory that wasn't mine, to finish what someone had started centuries ago. My hands moved before I agreed to let them. The hammer struck, sparks flared where no metal should be. Every hit produced not sound but code, patterns in the air that looked like binary written in smoke. As I worked, the walls changed texture. They stopped being walls. They began to remember, photographs surfaced through the grain, faces, blueprints, diagrams of bones. Each strike translated memory into matter. Each cut of the saw opened veins in the architecture, that bled light instead of blood. The voices in the timber whispered in rhythm. Freya built the network. Katya fed it fire. You will give it body. I dropped the tools. The whisper stopped instantly. The silence after was worse. A silence that felt disappointed. I stumbled backward into the corridor. The child was there again, smaller now, or maybe the hallway was larger. He was building too, stacking stones in mid-air, each block hanging a second before locking into place without touch. "It needs a frame," he said. "For what?" "For him." "Who's him?" "The one who bargains." He tilted his head. The flesh of his neck cracked like old ice. "He likes houses with history." The boy gestured toward my hands. "Finish. Or the foundation will take you instead." Then he vanished, leaving only the scent of wet ash and iron. The air grew heavier, electric. Every surface buzzed faintly, as if charged. The floor bulged upward beneath the carpet, nails pushed themselves through, forming crude sigils. I should have run. But when I tried to step back, the hallway stretched like taffy. The exit kept sliding farther away. The only thing that stayed constant was the room with the tools. So I went back. Because the house wanted me there, and sometimes obedience feels like survival. I picked up the chisel again. The mark on its blade, Dragan, had changed to deliver. My name was gone. When I set it against the wall, the plaster hissed. Underneath wasn't brick. It was flesh, pale, pulsing, shot through with black veins. The house wasn't dead wood, it was alive and waiting. I carved. Every stroke exposed muscle, every line opened a vein that glowed red. And in that glow I saw her, Katya, standing knee-deep in molten road, eyes reflecting taillights. Then Freya, encased in blue ice, mouth open in silent scream. Both watching me. Both mouthing the same word. Build. The chisel slipped, slicing my palm. Blood dripped onto the glowing wall. Immediately, the light changed color, flaring gold. The wound sealed itself, the blood absorbed. The radio on the table snapped to life though there was no power. Static formed syllables. Payment accepted. Proceed to next stage. The hammer vibrated, pulling toward the floor. A trapdoor I hadn't seen before cracked open beneath the rug, exhaling heat. From below came the smell of wet stone and something burning slow. I climbed down. The cellar wasn't masonry anymore. It was bone, massive ribs arched overhead, vertebrae forming the stairs. Each step groaned under my weight. At the center lay an altar made from fused metal and marrow, tools scattered around it like offerings. Someone had carved a sentence across the wall in 3 languages. Where code ends, blood begins. The air shimmered, and Cosman stepped out from behind the altar. He looked less human now, taller, his cloak grown into him, skin veined with the same black filaments that ran through the walls. "Do you see it now?" he asked. "See what?" "The house isn't mine. It's yours. You've been building it every time you've opened a listing, every time you've clicked accept." He placed the saw in my hands. "You are the third conduit. The flesh version. Without you, the bazaar has no door." Something behind the altar stirred, a shape half submerged in the floor, enormous, breathing slow. Its skin mirrored the walls, bone, wood, and circuitry. With each exhale, the whole cellar pulsed. Cosman whispered, reverent. "The architect wakes." I backed away. "I didn't agree to this." "You did," he said gently. "When you typed your name." He raised his hand. On his palm glowed a sigil, identical to the one carved into my own. "Your blood authenticated the contract." The altar split open, revealing a cavity shaped exactly like a human body. "Lie down," he said. "No." The word barely left my mouth before the house itself answered for me. Beams shot from the walls, pinning me by the wrists. The chisel and hammer floated into place above my chest, aligning with impossible precision. "It won't kill you," Cosman murmured. "It will make you useful." Pain became geometry. The tools moved like surgeons, carving patterns into skin I could no longer call mine. Lines of light replaced blood. I could feel the network connecting, north toward ice, east toward ash. Freya's breath, Katya's heartbeat, both pulsing through me. My mind split into frequencies. One part screaming, one part observing, one part recording the process like code compiling. Every stroke of the hammer echoed like a keystroke. Somewhere far away, a modem connected. Dial tone turned to whisper. Upload complete. When the light finally dimmed, I was alone again. The tools rested on the altar, steaming. The wound across my chest glowed faintly with circuitry that faded as I watched. I stood. The house exhaled a long, slow breath, walls expanding as if relieved. Then came the voice, not Cosmin, not the child, but something deeper, resonant. 3 bargains sealed. The bazaar is whole. The floor split, revealing a tunnel stretching into darkness. Far away, faint aurora shimmered, the same green fire over Svalbard, the same red reflection off Kamchatka ash. I understood then, every deal, every death, was a coordinate. And I had just drawn the line connecting them. Part 3, The Inheritance. I remember thinking that when the floor opened and the tunnel appeared, it looked less like a passage, and more like a throat. The ribs of the house curved downward, slick with condensation, pulsing gently. Each pulse matched my heartbeat. Or maybe it was the other way around. I stepped inside. The light behind me died, leaving only a faint red glow that came from under my skin. The chisel's mark on my palm throbbed like a living thing. Somewhere below, something hummed in reply. The tunnel narrowed until I had to crawl. Dust turned to frost, then to black sand warm enough to burn my hands. When the space widened again, I was in what could only be called the house's heart. A chamber the size of a cathedral, ribs arching high into darkness, veins of light tracing symbols across the ceiling. In the middle stood a mirror taller than any door, its surface liquid, its frame made of hundreds of welded tools. Behind the glass, faint images flickered, a cabin under green aurora, a red car dissolving in steam, a man who looked like me standing with a hammer raised. Every reflection was a piece of the same pattern. Every reflection watched me. You built the frame, said a voice that filled the chamber. Now inherit what it shelters. It wasn't Cosmin. It wasn't human. The sound carried weight, as if it bent gravity when it spoke. The mirror rippled. Something stepped through. At first I thought it was a man, but the longer I looked, the less certain I became. Its outline shifted, sometimes tall, sometimes hunched, sometimes many-limbed. It wore pieces of faces the way others wear coats. One moment Freya's eyes, then Katya's mouth, then mine. You called me the architect, it said, voice changing with each borrowed mouth. I build bargains. I harvest the pieces left when humans trade certainty for desire. I tried to step back, the floor held me in place. Why me? I asked. Because you understood structure. You believed every machine has a pattern. You were correct. It gestured toward the glowing veins in the walls. This is the pattern. Blood, wire, intention. The bazaar is an organism of want. Then what happens to those inside it? The smile that followed didn't belong to anyone, it belonged to all of them. They become it. As will you. The mirror brightened until it was a screen showing the world above, cities pulsing with data, roads lit like arteries, satellites blinking like neurons. Each spark connected to a line. Each line led here. Every trade you make in your world feeds this one, it said. Every search, every click, every acceptance of terms. Its hand brushed the air, holograms of contracts, messages, invoices spiraled around me. My name repeated across them all. You think you're users. You're materials. The chamber trembled. In the mirror, The red Lada drove endless circles around the frozen cabin. The light from its headlights formed the shape of a sigil, the same triangles I'd carved into the wall. 3 conduits awakened the bazaar's gate, the architect continued. Ice, fire, flesh. Now the door can open. I felt the mark on my chest ignite. Heat surged upward, crawling into my throat. Open to what? To me. The reflection of the mirror began to leak into the room, dripping like mercury. Where it touched the floor, shapes grew, stairs, doorways, a city folding itself out of light. It wasn't hell. It wasn't heaven. It was architecture without purpose, towers built of memory and regret. You built this, the architect whispered. Every time you desired a shortcut, a bargain, a deal too good to refuse. Then destroy it, I said. End the circuit. I can't. Its voice softened. But the maker can. The chisel in my hand trembled, glowing white-hot. The lines carved into my skin blazed to life, connecting to the walls, the ceiling, the floor. I understood then. I wasn't meant to serve the bazaar. I was the tool designed to end it. One act of creation left, the architect murmured. Erase the blueprint. For a moment I hesitated. If I destroyed it, would I destroy them too? Freya, Katya, whatever remained of them inside this circuit. The mirror flickered again. Freya's face appeared. Her eyes clear for the first time. Do it, she mouthed. Katya beside her nodded once. Let it freeze. I raised the chisel. The chamber roared, the sound of 1,000 engines, of ice cracking, of fire hissing through vents. The architect lunged, its shape unraveling into storm and smoke. I drove the chisel into the floor. Light erupted, blue, red, gold, all at once. The walls fractured like glass under pressure. Every reflection shattered into dust. Through the noise I heard the architect scream, not in pain but in astonishment. You can't unbuild hunger. Watch me, I said. The hammer struck once, twice. The third blow split the mirror. The world inverted. When I woke, I was outside. Morning light, real light, glared off fresh snow. The manor was gone. In its place, a crater ringed by frost-burned birches. Steam rose where foundation stones still hissed. No tools. No chisel. Just my hands, scarred and still faintly warm. A car engine echoed far off in the valley, ordinary, human. For the first time in months, I didn't flinch at the sound. I walked until I found the road. Half buried, half thawed, it led down toward the living world. In the distance, cell towers blinked, and my phone buzzed back to life. One message waited. Blacklist Bazaar, connection lost. I laughed until I couldn't breathe. Snow began to fall again, soft, clean, without ash. That night, in a hotel room in Brauve, I dreamed of a workshop flooded with pale light. 3 figures worked silently, a woman chipping ice, another hammering iron, and a man carving wood. When they looked up, their faces were mine. Each smiled and said together, there will always be builders. I work with sawdust on my hands. Curtain. Outside, dawn spread over the Alps like gold poured on frost. Somewhere beyond sight, under a different sky, a cabin hummed, a car cooled, a house exhaled its last breath. The bazaar slept, for now. And the world went on buying.